Oh, I am for you now, and you are for me. Friend and my ally, plant we will see. Growing in this side and that side of stream. Down at the bottom of the mountain, to you I'm seen. Oh. All right, today we are setting out to find a plant of spiritual potency, Devil's Club. This is a powerful ally and one not to be taken lightly. This has been used by many of the native peoples in this part of the world. In fact, I think it's something like 38 different language groups of coastal people from Alaska to Oregon have used this plant as their medicine. Before we get started, we want to make sure we have the right tools for the project. That means we are going to need clippers. We're also going to be peeling some of the roots, so I've got a nice little knife. I've also got a harvesting bag here and an extra bucket. Now, another important piece of this is I've got tromping boots, because the area that we're in, Devil's Club, likes wet feet. Last but not least, we want to bring a gift for this plant. So I've got a little bit of our homegrown tobacco here that we're going to share with the plant to honor its spirit, as well as we are going to offer it some of our beverage. I'm also going to give it a few pieces of myself as we go along. We'll see how that goes. Another thing I forgot to mention is make sure you got a pair of gloves, because this is a spiky plant. There's a reason they call it Devil's Club. It's got these little spines on it that will fester if you poke yourself with them, and those wounds will become slightly infected, so got to be careful. Always treat plants with respect, especially ones like this. When we're harvesting this, we want to look for places where the mountains come down into a river valley. This is where it likes to hang out. Now, this is a bit of a doctor's signature for how it works, because it helps clear congestion from those ooky-gooky pathways in our body. In fact, there's a lot of medicinal benefits and spiritual uses of this plant that have to do with kind of where it grows and how it shows up in the world. Let's have a deeper look. This is a plant that I revere very much. And every time I come across the first one in the patch, I like to give it my blessings and my thanks and gratitude. For this plant of spiritual potency, just like other plants with those kind of shamanistic qualities, respond very well to our connection back with them. So in this case, I'm going to offer it first thing, try to pull a hair out of my head and leave one here so that the plant can get to know who I am. Now I'm going to swap that for a little piece of its new growth for next year. This little tiny piece here, I'm going to take that and put it in my mouth. Thank you, plant. See, that sets the tone and changes my entire way of being here. I had a big day today, and just coming in, touching, connecting with this plant is reminding me how amazing life is and how precious it is this time of year. Right now, it is around the time where the veils are thinnest, just around Halloween. And I like to harvest this plant around this time because I feel as though that is when thinning of the veils allows for more spiritual context and continuity to come in place, where we can see between the worlds. And I think Devil's Club is one of those ones that allows us to work on those levels. This is some of our homegrown tobacco. Thank you, Creator, for bringing such potent medicine into our lives. Oh, it's so nice to be in the forest in these places. These are some of the most magical parts of the world, and we are just graced with medicine spending time here. And that's two ways in which plants can heal you. One is going out and connecting with them like so, and the other one is starting to use them in your body. So Devil's Club is probably the most important spiritual plant to the native peoples of this area. It has been used for centuries as a medicine and a plant of spiritual potency. In fact, most of the traditional uses of this plant have to do with shamanistic powers that it may have, those of protection or those of healing. Now, a lot of this, when we look at it medicinally, we see that it does have things like antibacterial and antiviral compounds, as well as antifungal compounds. So some of the ailments that it was used for, those would be some of the aspects that we can see where it came from. But there's a lot of different ways to use it. But first, let's hone in on this plant and kind of get connected to how it shows up in the world. Now, as you can see, it has these great big spikes. Now, what do these mean? What are they saying? Obviously, these are protective, right? If I poke myself with these, not only am I going to get festering wounds that don't heal right away, I'm also going to have a lot of issues afterwards with trying to pull them out. So animals will stay clear. This says, I am a protective plant, or be wary in that sense. Sticks were made into walking sticks and amulets and used by native shamans to help to protect the tribe or to protect someone or to cast spells, so to speak. So a lot of the traditional use has to do with these sort of more spiritual illnesses. And this is an interesting phenomenon because when you see where it shows up in the world, you see that it likes those deep, dark, dank places. Like right now, we're in this bed of a stream at the bottom of a mountain. This is a great place where Devil's Club likes to hang out. So it helps to clear up the turbulence in those areas. Now, we've seen some digestive potential with this, both working with blood sugar stabilizing and with just digestion in general, antifungal, antibacterial properties too. One of the thoughts is that it's a bit of a pancreatic tonic, so it helps to get the pancreas moving and flowing and working in a better way. With its ability to help stabilize blood sugars, it allows you to go without food, but also can increase the appetite at the same time. So it has this ability to kind of stabilize the system. Hence, it's been considered an adaptogen. Now, this isn't a true adaptogen, even though it is in the same family as the ginsengs. So this is in the Aralia family, and some of our real potent plants are in that family. We have ginseng, eleutherococcus, sarsaparilla, the smilax. These are some of those Aralia family plants. And so it has been coined even words like Alaskan ginseng. Now, of course, it's not a ginseng. It doesn't have those properties, but it does have a lot of spiritual, potent benefits, and being used for things like type 2 diabetes, which has been one of its major industry uses at this time, shows that there's a lot of potential for modulating the system and bringing it back into coherence, so to speak. When I eat that, I can sure taste some of those like fiery digestive properties of this plant. I can taste the upward moving phenols and sesquiterpenes, this kind of compounds that are moving upwards. I can feel that it's going to have a really strong affinity to my chest and to my bronchial cavities. Now, I know from history and research that this is one of the most significant plants that helps with tuberculosis. If we're going to harvest this plant, we are looking for the stems and the root bark that are, especially the parts with little spikes. Now, the spiky parts are more used as that protective amulet. So these spiky parts might be used that way, and we might carve them or pull the spikes off, but use those to make amulets or necklaces. Now, I've done this, and this is my Devil's Club necklace I've been wearing for about 1.5 years, and it's considered to be a herb of good luck, almost like a rabbit's foot, so to speak, but also one of protection and helping to keep your boundaries and keep your energy from being influenced by evil psychic debris. Ooh. If we're going to be harvesting Devil's Club, we want to be in an area where there is a lot of it growing. This plant does not like to be over harvested. In fact, it has a hard time recovering. I've been going to different places for the last 5-6 years, and I make sure that I go to a new place every year, and I come back and I see that it takes a bit of time for those areas to regrow. So we want to make sure we go to a place where there's a lot of this plant, and we only harvest enough for that season. This is one of those plants that could become on the endangered list because there isn't that much of it, and it's being used widely outside of its natural ecosystem for things like the type 2 diabetes. I might take this bit of root bark and I'm going to follow it back to the mother where it comes into. Don't harvest the big old ones. If you can, try to find where they are and harvest some of the smaller ones off the edges of them. This is what we're going for. So if I find this plant, if I find this plant, I'm gonna go for this root bark and pull it along. We wanna wait till this time of year when we have soft ground. There's also some belief that this plant shouldn't be harvested in the middle of the winter. The reason why is that the chemistry changes after the snow comes. It's also believed not to be harvested in the middle of its season. So we want to wait till after it goes to berry or before the leaves in the spring. I tend to like October when the veils are thinnest and when the plant has fully completed its cycle, i.e. right now when all these leaves are losing their potency and are falling to the ground. We've noticed that the deer like to eat the spring tips, and I've done this too myself. It's quite tasty, these little spring nibbly tips, as well as the berries have been used as medicine. They have a lot of antioxidants and a lot of potential that way, but as a paint, the berries have been used mixed with charcoal and bear grease to make war paint or to make prayer paint and to do dances and ceremony using the Devil's Club berry paint. This plant has been said to be a spiritual purifier. One of the ceremonies I was reading in Nancy Turner's work was to sit on a mountain with 40 Devil's Club sticks around you and only eat those 40 Devil's Club sticks until you had your vision. And wow, it is very strong flavored. In fact, I gave this to somebody once and they said 2 days later they came back and they're like, oh, what was that you gave me? It's still in my mouth. I still taste it. I was like, whoa. You know, so treat with respect. Powerful herb. Now, it will suppress the appetite to a degree in this way. And so it can be used to help stabilize the blood sugar and maintain a longer period of time so we can have that full vision quest. The other thing though, is it is slightly emetic. So you might vomit before you have that vision quest if you're just eating Devil's Club sticks. Imagine that, sitting on a hill, 40 of these sticks around you. This was all you had to eat. You and Creator were connecting and bringing spiritual practice into play. It used to be where we asked the universe questions and we got answers from inside. Nowadays we look outside for our answers. And truly, plants like this teach us a lot about that, looking inside, connecting deeper with who we are to find that purpose, that value, that core vision for what we want to do in the world, how we want to show up. So Devil's Club is also said to have analgesic and pain relieving effects. In fact, this is how it might work in menstrual cramping and menstrual pain, as well as major wound care or other types of pain. It's been used to expel afterbirth and to bring on menses after a child is born. The other thing is it has a bit of a stomachic quality, which means helpful for toning the stomach. In fact, they've been using this for ulcers. There's also been some research into using Devil's Club in cancer treatments. Now, a lot of this is still early on stages, but there's a lot of benefits to plants like this that have adaptogenic qualities. Spiritual protective plants too, that work on these levels, work on many different levels of our psyche, and they help bring us into a different flow, a different harmony by just teaching us how they show up in the world. As this plant is believed to have supernatural powers, often bathing in it in a decoction of this plant would be used for protection, especially against witchcraft or other things like this. In fact, some of the literature even talks about how this plant was used to help bring on good weather and to get rid of bad weather, and all sorts of uses like this. As I'm picking at it, you'll see what I'm doing is I'm pulling off the root bark here. There's a couple of ways we can do that. One way I like to take with these smaller roots is I'll just twist them like so, and then pull the root bark back. With the bigger ones, I'm going to take them with my handy dandy pair of Falcos here, and I'm going to chop them in different places. I'll bring these to the water over here and I'll clean them up, and then as I go along, once they're cleaned up, I'll take my knife when I get home and start peeling back this root bark. This is where the real potent medicine is. It has a hollow stem. You can kind of see inside of here is this really pithy core. If we're careful with it, we can hollow out that pithy core. We can start to make beads with it, like the Devil's Club beads that I've done here. They're a nice gift to give to people who you might want to give something special, something sacred to. So, Devil's Club Christmas, anyone? It was one of my favorite things to do. I know that this is the spring tip for next year. So it's got all that chi in it, still ready for potentiating. And I always like to find those pieces of the plant that are holding the chi. So you see this little tip? As we kind of peel it back. This is the part I really like to connect with. I don't know why, but it's like those growing edges, that young, abundant potential energy. So I'll take that little bit, kind of peel it back, open it up, pop that little baby in my mouth. Wow. There is no flavor like Devil's Club. part of the name Devil's Club comes from its big spikes, but it also comes from warding away evil spirits. So this plant is there to help ward away those dark influences in our lives. So treat it with respect, and you'll find this is a great ally. Like I said before, when we're harvesting this, we don't want to take too much. The best way to use this is in these slices like this. We can add these to teas if we want to have some of that blood sugar stabilizing effect, or to work with anti-pathogenic qualities, antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial, so to speak, whether we have a lung infection, or we might use it even for dysentery or digestive upset. Other ways you might use Devil's Club is to make a tincture. Now, because it has some of these saponin groups in it, because it has some of this complex chemistry, we need a little higher alcohol. So we might use a 60% alcohol with the Devil's Club. If we're gonna use root bark like this, we might do what's called a 1-to-4, which means 1 gram of the root bark to 4 milliliters of our liquid. In this case, 60% alcohol. Macerate that for 2 to 3 weeks, strain it off, and voila, you have a potent medicine that'll last you for years. Now, as this plant is used for spiritual potency, you don't even need to eat it. All you need to do is spend some time with it. If you see Devil's Club in your area, take a moment, sit with it, connect with it, enjoy its presence, spend some time learning from this plant just by being around it. We'll see you soon.
For I am for you now, and you are for me. Friend and my ally, plant we will see, growing in this side and that side of stream.